Honourable David Cunliffe.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, on a bare, windswept hill above a little South Canterbury village called Cave stands a stark, lonely cenotaph. Cave is a tiny village of a few dozen souls surrounded by the rolling downland that slope up to the Hunter Hills. It's surrounded by farms. It was the place that I can first remember an Anzac dawn service. And what I remember is that for all of the small size of that town, inscribed on the cenotaph are the names of dozens of local lads who lost their lives in the war to end wars, the so-called Great War. 100 years since the Great War that broke and refashioned so many ideas of who we are, that underscored emerging concepts of nation and nationhood, that hurled humanity into modernity, that birthed a new international age. It's an age which in many ways we're still living in, Mr. Speaker. For New Zealand, it was no less than a formative moment of mud and fire, one of those points in our national history that defined us. It defined us in grief and in loss, and it was a great loss. 100 years on, it seems so distant, but that sheer weight of loss remains with us. Of the over 100,000 deployed, nearly 1 in 6 was killed, and over 40,000 were wounded from a country with a population of just over 1 million. Less than half returned unscathed in body, almost none returned unscathed in mind. It is no exaggeration to say that the effects of this war rippled viscerally through our nation. And those empty farms, the endless damaged families, the silenced fathers and brothers, the stoically silent ones who returned, was a rupture that changed us forever. It was a loss, but it was also a fundamental and violent change to who we were and a part of now who we are. It is ever present in the memorials of town after town like Cave, each holding the names of the loss, and in the dawn service. It is still with us in the way we think of ourselves as New Zealanders, in our sense of independence, in our great sense of uniqueness, our drive for self-determination, in our desire to be exactly who we are. Today is a day to commemorate the First World War. In doing so, we do not lose sight of the immense sacrifices made by millions on both sides. Indeed, the concept of there being any other side than that of humanity seems alien so many decades later, because today we also commemorate the strength and compassion of our soldiers and of their families and of what they brought to us. Their stories are our stories. They are deeply and resonantly a part of who we are as individuals and as a nation. Like many New Zealanders, I have a strong connection to this watershed moment in our history. My maternal grandfather, Bob Tuke, served at Gallipoli. His brother, my great-uncle Athol, served in France. Both were decorated. They were lucky. Both survived. Another brother was gassed. On my father's side, my great-uncle Thomas Henry Walsh was killed in action on 21st May 1918. Even now, it is impossible to truly grasp just what they went through in that savage industrial mincer of a warfare. From the beaches of Anzac Cove to the poked, barbed wire fence, strewn fields of the Western Front, our troops and those who supported them must be celebrated and remembered. They are all part of the fashioning of New Zealand as a proud and independent nation. Their experiences and those of the people they left behind were the start of New Zealand casting off its colonial outlook and recognising that we could and must stand on our own 2 feet. A nation that honours the sacrifices of its forebears and through those sacrifices sees pity, not glory in war. It is reflected in our pride of being a nation that uses its voice on the world stage to promote peace and a better world for all. In commemorating World War I, we are commemorating the New Zealand that conflict helped shape. The famous ode, "Age shall not weary them, nor will it weary the spirit that they have imbued our beautiful nation with."
Mr. Speaker.
Dr. Kennedy Graham.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Green